Will Ospreay has his ticket to All In. He is going to be facing the AEW World Champion, whoever that may be, at All In Wembley Stadium. The road to Will Ospreay winning that AEW World title has been a long road. He had an opportunity and maybe a couple of opportunities to win that AEW World title last year, and legitimately decided to let others have an opportunity, a very unselfish act. And ever since his neck injury and this feud with the Death Riders, his return has looked a little bit like Cactus Jack's amnesia angle after Vader powerbombed him on the concrete in 1993. Now, we never got the finality to that story when they had interviews with Cactus Jack out in the streets where he forgot who his wife was and wasn't sure who he was anymore. That story never really got its final act where Cactus Jack remembered again and came back. They kind of just left that one alone. This story, however, has continued on the path where Will Ospreay is with the Death Riders, almost like an episode of like that TV show that you watched in the 90s, like a Boy Meets World or a Family Matters, where all of a sudden Eddie Winslow's hanging around the biker gang and all his friends are like, what's going on? And Will Ospreay's friend is none other than Kenny Omega, wondering why Will Ospreay decided to hang out with the Death Riders. And the Death Riders are embracing him, and Jon Moxley is using great psychology to show that he actually cares about Will Ospreay and that this is something that's going to benefit him and AEW in general. But what's really going on, which is kind of like a subtle underlining theme to this story, is that Jon is trying to get Will Ospreay to be a lot more vicious, claiming that that viciousness is what's going to bring out the real Will Ospreay and also get him to the world title. That is something that I find to be a very intriguing aspect to this storyline. Maybe a lot of people don't, and that's where you guys come in. If you don't like this idea, you can leave it in the comment section down below, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Will Ospreay going darker can lead to some fantastic, fascinating story here. Now, if you look at Hangman Adam Page, he is the two-time AEW World Champion. In each quest to the AEW World title, he's lost a piece of himself and his friends. When he turns around, he doesn't recognize himself in the mirror. He doesn't have any friends around him, which has led him to a darker path in life. So much so that he burnt down Swerve's childhood home, no doubt after Swerve broke into his home and threw a t-shirt on his baby. Yes, that happened. So with Swerve and Hangman Adam Page, they both went darker routes. They both went more vicious with their approach to things in their pursuit for the AEW World title. It consumed them. Jon Moxley put the title in a briefcase almost to sequence that this title is going to consume me, and its all powerful abilities will turn me into something even more vicious, which it did even with the title being non-existent in gym bags and briefcases, where he was trying to unalive people, like put plastic bags and bleach down the throats of people and then stomp their necks into bits to hopefully end their career. And that one person that he did that to, Will Ospreay, is now being taught that same strategy. So with the story that is being unfolded here with Kenny Omega wondering why Will Ospreay's going that route but still choosing to befriend him and be nice to him, I feel that the story is leading to a match between Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega at All In. It seems to be inevitable at this point because it's been such a long build, and we really have been wanting to see Kenny Omega against Will Ospreay in AEW, and we have yet to see it. So it leads me to believe, since we've already seen Kenny Omega and MJF, we've already seen MJF and Will Ospreay, that Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega is almost that last dream match that fans have yet to see, where the title on the line adds so much drama and anticipation for it. The other layer of that is Moxley being the albatross, and Moxley embracing Will Ospreay, bringing him into the Death Riders, showing him his kinship and friend, and teaching him the skills in order to get back to 100% health, while Kenny Omega has been busy trying to nurse himself back to 100% health and hasn't really been around Will Ospreay, has led me to believe that where we're stepping into is that Will Ospreay might go a darker route. Now, it is very, very risky to put Will Ospreay in a scenario where he could potentially be booed at Wembley Stadium, and I understand that to be true. but Will Ospreay getting booed at Wembley Stadium is about as likely as the Chicago crowd booing CM Punk. It's just not going to happen. But what you can do is add a layer of intrigue and suspense to where Ospreay might look to use a weapon to defeat Kenny Omega if they have that inevitable main event at All In. What I'm talking about is Moxley likes to use crazy weapons to beat opponents. Sometimes it's a by any means necessary type of a scenario. No matter how friendly and nice Moxley has been with Ospreay, and even to guys like Bandito after he beats him, there is an evil side to Moxley that still exists because he will win by any means necessary. And if you get a scenario and a big platform as a spectacular like All In Wembley, you have a moment where Moxley could come out and give Ospreay something like a screwdriver. With the screwdriver in his hand, and I'm completely fantasy booking here, guys. Come along this journey with me here as I theorize this idea. Moxley with the screwdriver hands it to Ospreay. Ospreay looks at it and then looks to the crowd. All of the thousands of people in attendance at that stadium yelling, "No, don't do it." He turns around and looks at a fallen Kenny Omega who's on his knees, his face looking at the canvas. Ospreay goes to grab him by the chin, lifts up the screwdriver, looks at the face of Kenny Omega, who can barely open his eyes, and then one more glance to the crowd, and then he throws the screwdriver away. Moxley looks shocked. Ospreay picks up Kenny Omega, hits a devastating finishing maneuver. 1-2 kick out. Crowd going crazy. Omega tries to do one last triumphant run. Ospreay counters that. Ospreay hits a devastating finisher, and that's 1, 2, 3. And Ospreay wins the AEW World Championship, and he didn't have to use a bag. He didn't have to use a fireball. He didn't have to use barbed wire. He didn't have to use a screwdriver. He won decisively. He noticed at that one moment that he had an opportunity to go full dark mode, full Death Rider, and instead he decided to win decisively. Now, why would Ospreay decide to go against the teachings of Moxley at that moment? Well, in the subsequent episodes of Dynamite that are before All In, you can look to Hangman Adam Page as the guy to come along and give Ospreay some great advice. That advice being, don't lose yourself in this push to go become the AEW World Champion, and look no further than me. Look at what happened to me. I lost my friends. I almost lost my family. I lost myself. And look where I'm at. I'm trying to pick the pieces back up, and I can no longer be AEW World Champion again. So don't do what I have done, and don't go down that road that I have gone down. And with Will Ospreay listening to that advice, those words from Hangman Adam Page can ring very true to Will Ospreay. And in that moment at Wembley Stadium where he has an opportunity to do something heinous to possibly shorten the career of Kenny Omega that's already been shortened by diverticulitis, Ospreay can win decisively, embrace Kenny Omega, shake his hand, and hold up the AEW World Championship. That can potentially send him on a path to going against the Death Riders, who maybe the Death Riders at Dynamite congratulate Ospreay on the Dynamite after All In, and then beat the ever-living shit out of him in the center of that ring. Because they spent so much invested time on teaching Ospreay for him to just throw it all away and do the quote-unquote right thing. I think you have a phenomenal story at play if they go that route. If they don't go that route and they go a similar route, I'm okay with that as well. But there is something intriguing about this idea of Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay's fractured relationship, while Moxley is that monkey on the back for Will Ospreay, getting him further and further down a road where he's doing different things and becoming a different person. I just find it to be a really good story that can be really, really well done if put together the right way. And you need a story beat like that in order to really get people emotionally invested. Because to me, it's not all about the theatrics, the soap operas. It's about the emotional investment. And I've been emotionally invested in Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega's journey for this long, and Moxley has even gotten me further interested to the point where you need a big blow off at All In that is like that. And hell, you can go Swerve and MJF, which has Swerve and MJF ever had a match? I can't remember. You guys let me know down in the comments if they've ever had a match. But you could also put Swerve and MJF on the All In card as well. This has a potential with Cope and Cage and the Bucks, and maybe even adding FTR and the New Era or the New Day, but maybe they may be called the New Era or something, you know. I think that you can put those 4 teams in the match and they could tear the house down. I think you got a really good opportunity to have a lot of great marquee matches for All In, and it can end on that note would be spectacular. It would get everybody talking. That is a match that people were going to talk about regardless of the story beats, but if you have a story beat like that, I feel like it really ties everything together and it gives Ospreay something to do on the other side of finally winning the AEW World Championship. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think about this scenario and what you think the scenario should be on the other side here as we get ready and gear up for All In from AEW. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video and more, you guys know what to do. This is the Wrestling Old Head reporting from the portal of pro wrestling. Stay tuned for more.